Welcome, everybody. This is a regular meeting of the Rules Committee of the Representative Town Meeting of Darien. And I'm going to call the meeting to order. I have one item to add to our agenda. It's a bookkeeping item, $82,741 to replenish the Board of Finance's capital reserve to reflect the actual insurance payment received for the Board of Ed vehicles. We passed it in our last meeting at $82,241. It came in at $82,741, and so to tie it so that our approval matches the books, we will add that item to the agenda. Next item, without objection, does anybody have any problem with that? I see no objections. Welcome, Michael. I didn't see you sneak in there. Good to see you. We have two Michaels, I guess. One's Mike and one's Michael. Okay.
I've been on for a while, Seth.
That's how we tell ourselves apart.
All right. First item is nominating and elect Rules Vice Chair, the clerk, and designated acting moderator. Starting with the Rules Vice Chair, do I have any nominations? Jack?
I nominate Lois.
I'll second that.
Oh, great. Are there any other
I second that.
nominations? I see and hear no other nominations. So by acclamation, Lois Schneider
Thank
is
you.
the Vice Chair of the Rules Committee. Congratulations, Lois.
Thank you.
I can see the pain in her face. Well, that's
Feels good at the moment. We'll see. We'll go back to normal.
Next, can I have a nomination for clerk, please?
Mark, would you like to be nominated?
I see Ann. I see Ann.
Do you want to?
I was going to nominate Mark if he's willing to accept.
I wouldn't want to box anybody out, so if anybody.
Accept the nomination.
Happy to do it.
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Adelette accepts the nomination. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, by acclamation, Mark Adelette is the clerk. Thank you, Mark, so much.
Welcome, Seth. And as I get started, Seth, just looking for attendance before we move on, just so I can get it right. Are we missing anybody? I have nobody. I don't see Shannon. Are you here? Who's?
No,
No,
so
it's,
Shannon, it's not
Peter,
Shannon, it's Peter
Orfanos.
Orfanos, and
I
I'll
don't see
text him.
Peter Orfanos.
Yeah, where is he? I don't see him here.
He's not here. Let me
Okay.
text him. He's with me, so let me see where he is because he knows about it. He might still be at work.
Okay, but that's the only person we're missing. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I had to
Okay.
send him the
And,
agenda last
many
night,
thanks
so he may need the signer again.
with all of us going full bore. And now I'll ask for nomination for acting moderator.
Can Lois do that, or does it have to be, didn't we combine it
Yes.
last
Yes,
year?
she can. You can nominate Lois.
I don't know if anybody else
Or
wants,
someone else if you,
that was just a question.
yeah, yes, the same person can do both, yeah.
I nominate Lois.
And did for a long time until we figured out that there was another position. Yes,
I'll
okay.
second the
go ahead.
nomination.
Please.
I'll second it.
I didn't see who nominated. Oh, Mike Wheeler nominated. And who seconded?
Michael seconded.
And Michael Castello seconded. Okay. Are there any more nominations? I see none. Lois gets another hat. Thank you, Lois, very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, next item is approving the minutes for October 4. Can I have a motion in favor, please? Ann, thank you. Second,
Teresa,
Teresa, thank you. Are there any corrections, additions, whatever, to October 4 minutes? Okay. We're ready to vote. Are there any no votes, please? I see none. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Lois. I see no abstentions. The approval is unanimous.
Peter is
The
joining.
October 4 minutes. Now can I have a motion for the October 25 minutes? Approve them. Thank you, Ann. Second, please.
Adele,
Patty?
Adele. Any corrections, additions?
very nice, Patty. Very nice.
That wasn't easy, Patty.
Pardon? Oh, well, Mark's hard to follow. Thank you.
Okay, ready to vote then? Are there any no votes? I see none. Are there any abstentions? I see none. The minutes for October 25 are approved unanimously. Next item on the agenda is reappointing the Technology Committee. I want to reappoint Lois Schneider, Mike Wheeler, and Mark Adaletta as the Rules Technology Committee. I can do that on my own, but if you'd like to vote on it, I'll give you the shot. It'd be much better. See, then I don't have to carry the full weight. I have partners in crime on this. I see no urgency of anybody wanting to vote on this, so I will appoint that committee again for the coming year or until they're not needed. I hope that happens quickly. Next,
Thank you, Seth.
well, thank you for volunteering. I obviously called everybody before we stepped into this. And they've done a fantastic job. You can see the results time and again. Okay, the next item is assigning RTM members to committees. Mike has a nice sheet for us to look at. Look at that. That's really something. There are ways to make that bigger on your screen. I'm using my fingers, but you can use the Zoom feature as well. Why don't we go ahead and hear from District 1, huh?
Lois, do you want me to take
Yes,
it, or
please. Yeah, Patty, go ahead.
you get to take the day off after all your hard work? For District 1, it was not so complicated this year. So I'm going to kind of cut to the chase quicker because some of you all might have more complications. Starting with education, we have Karen McNichols on again. We have Curtis Butler on again. We have Holly Mitchell on again. So the only asterisk I would say is Casey Mercy has been on has been on the RTM for four years already, and she's always asked for education, followed by Parks and Rec, and we've never been able to give her really any of her first 4 to 5 choices. And so Lois and I talked at length about this the other day, and we just felt like back to Jack's comment a year or two ago where he said, and by the way, we're going to have we're going to have an additional person coming on to our RTM District 1. So we'll be able to add one more person on towards the end of the spreadsheet. We traditionally like to have 2 or 3 people across the board. But what Jack said last year, I remember, is he said, if somebody really, really, really wants to be on a committee, and it's a committee that demands a lot of attention, like in education, then he thought that that was a good idea to consider it. So that's what Lois and I are proposing to do. We have not ever asked for 4 people on for education, but we're a little afraid that people are going to start getting off the RTM if they have to wait 10 years to get on a first or second committee that they requested. So that's why we're recommending Casey Massey as the 4th person on education. Going on to F&B, it's the 3 existing people who are on that already. It's Bert, it's Louisa Brockman, and it's Jenny Schwartz. On Parks and Rec, we're recommending the 3 existing people, Sarah Baldwin, myself, and Diane. On PZ&H, it's Amy Barsanti, and then Priscilla Wong, who she was another one last year who had put like 5 choices, and she got a 6th choice, and she was great on that committee, but now she had requested, she had actually requested public health and safety as her first choice, but Lois and I talked about it. Lois is on this committee, and she feels like sometimes her input was sometimes there's a lot of people on the committee and not as much work. So rather than put her as a 3rd person on public health and safety, we're going to put her as the 2nd person, because we needed to fill that spot on PZ&H, and that was her 2nd choice as well. And she also expressed an interest, and had expressed an interest in PZ&H, and she detailed that as well in her spreadsheets. Heading to the next one, public health and safety, recommending the same 2 existing folks, Colin Kelly and Lois Schneider. On public works, Patrick Keene, and then on TGSNA, Derek Loveland. So we have a 17th person coming on that we will be caucusing on probably in the next few weeks, and that person will go on either Public Works or TGSNA. So that is respectfully our submission from Lois and I for District 1. Thank you.
I'm thinking what we'll do here is hold comments until we get the whole slate up on the board, and then we can start looking and see if we have comments that everybody's okay with that. Okay, District 2.
Everything is pretty much the same as last year. We have Jackie Miller came on late in the year and was assigned to Public Works and has never been to a meeting yet. Ann Holt, we put on TGSNA. That was 3rd choice. And we have a late breaking discussion on Jeff Hudson. We were just able to get a hold of him. So Michael, do you want to talk about the Jeff Hudson situation and get Jack's feedback?
Sure, Mike, happy to. So when Mike and I were going through this, we were ideally wanting to give Jack another warm body for F&B, but no one had chosen it. We thought it was odd that that Jeff Hudson had not chosen it in any of his top choices, in spite of having a 25-year career in finance. So we put him on Public Works because we only had Jackie on there. But I spoke with him to say, hey, if we needed to move you to F&B, is there any reason why you would not have wanted it? And his answer was kind of a chuckle at first, which was that he said, no, I didn't. I just thought that it was too kind of important of a committee for a new person to choose. And I thought that it would be a lot of people ahead of me eager to get on that committee. So I did not put it as a preference. But if I were asked to do it, I would be happy to do it. He said, he's very humble. He said, I probably have a lot to learn about town finance, but he said, I'm happy to be part of it. So I told him that, look, we weren't ready to make the change as yet. We just kind of wanted to have that intel in our back pocket before we came into this meeting tonight.
Jack?
Okay.
Well, we need to get Jack's feedback. Does he want, because he had said that because we lost 2 in our district on F&B, and that he was down some and was looking for some additional support. So it's really up to you, Jack.
I actually think it's up to the district. He obviously has qualifications. And, you know, your guys' call.
Well, if you,
I mean,
if you
we're,
still
we're
want-
going down this year. We had 17 last year. We lost 4, including Mike Heights. 3 are no longer on the RTM besides Mike, and 2 switched. So we're down to 11. So giving us an extra person is fine. As
so
long as he understands, we meet a lot.
So, Michael, do you want to,
Yeah.
you want to switch him?
I mean, I'm happy to switch them as long as we're okay with only having one person on Public Works. And I know when Monica, moved off to the Board of Selectmen, there was a lot of push about getting more people back on Public Works. I guess there were 2 others that were lost as well. I don't know the committee well enough to say whether we would be, tying any hands behind their back if we only had one person on, but I would certainly be happy to move Jeff to F&B if we felt that that was not going to leave too big of a gap in public.
Right,
Teresa,
well,
I think it's your mic that we're getting the feedback from. If you could mute when you, because I think that's what the signal I'm getting.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I can't quite hear you.
Right, I think it's Teresa's mic that's getting the feedback from. If she could just mute until she needs to talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think your connection's a little weak, Mike, as well for some reason. But anyway, so tell me what you said about Jeff. I didn't hear the end. I'm sorry.
So what do you want to do? Do you want to switch him or do you want to leave him where he is?
I don't know that there's. We're getting some good input from Jack as chair of F&B. I wish we had the comparable feedback from Public Works, but it would seem to me that F&B is a lot more work, so we can move them over there.
Okay.
One not there, one over to the left. Mike.
yeah,
Oh yeah, sorry.
that's, did he put that down as number 1?
No, he didn't put it down at all. That's why I spoke with
He
him.
put it down as 4th.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If he put it down as 4th, you really shouldn't put him on it because F&B is a huge commitment. If somebody put that down as 4th, they really shouldn't go on that committee. I needed to move somebody and he said no because of the commitment.
Well,
That's just my suggestion.
His rationale, though, Teresa, his rationale, though, for not putting it down higher was he thought as a new member, he wouldn't be given the committee, so he put down others.
Okay.
Yeah. But that puts only 1 on Public Works. I think, I don't know. I would leave.
I'm sorry,
there.
to speak, so.
I leave him on Public Works.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of big imbalance in the number of bodies, especially in this instance, if he wasn't necessarily requesting it.
Okay, well, Jack had indicated that he was looking for reinforcements. That's why we're looking. That's the only reason we would have considered it. If Jack.
Sorry, Jack, I missed that. I was.
No.
That's where this came from. Let me. I feel like maybe what I said earlier wasn't heard through. So I'm happy to keep him on Public Works. I'm not pushing to push him over there, but let me just lay out again why with the discussions. Feel like hearing from some people I didn't hear at all. He is interested in F&B. He has a background in F&B. He didn't choose it on his top 3 because he didn't think as a new member he would be selected for it. So he put his other preferences. The only reason we reached out to him to find that out was because of Jack's comment about looking for some more reinforcement. So Mike and I said, hey, maybe we should have a conversation with Jeff, given his background. So bottom line, if we need more people on F&B, he has the background and is happy to do it. Otherwise, we put him on Public Works. And what was his, Mike, you have that note handy. Public Works was his what, maybe 3rd choice?
It was a 2nd.
2nd.
I have a question. On Public Works, there's Jackie Miller, and did I hear you say earlier there was some question about Jackie's ability to attend meetings?
No, she was just put on the RTM, and there have not been any meetings from the time she was appointed to now.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
No, no problem.
Yeah, I will go with what a district chooses. I had mentioned earlier that in a conversation with Jim Palin, Jim happened to mention Mr. Hudson as somebody that he knew who had a good financial background. And I hadn't had the list yet, and I was surprised to see that after Jim mentioned it, he was like, F&B was like 4. So, you know, I didn't say anything. We're going to be down this year in number of people, but, you know, we had 17 last year, and that's a lot.
I would suggest we put an asterisk on this one and move on, look at the others. Remember, we've got him to come back to.
That sounds good, Seth.
All right, so District 3?
Adele?
You want me
Your
to
show.
talk? Oh, my goodness, Jack, thank you. All right, I will, mostly District 3, it wasn't a tough one this year. Most of it stays the same. We keep the same members on the Board of Education. They've been good members. Mazurek, McGowie, and Washenka. For F&B, we have Davis and Lane. For Parks and Rec, Coniff and Mitchell. For PZ&H, we have Zimmerman remaining, and we are proposing to put a new Kirk Rudy to PZ&H. It's his first choice. On Public Health and Safety, Giordano and Moore remain. Public Works, Golis remains, and we propose to put Carrie Cardone. On Public Works, it's her second choice. We have 2 empty slots. We propose to put at least 1 for TGS&A. We have several people in the pipeline. I think we'll be caucusing soon. So at least 1 to TGS&A, and then the other one would be, you know, we'll decide if somebody has some special expertise. There may be a special place to put them. It won't be on education because there are already 3 there. So that's our thing.
All right. District 4.
Well, Joe, do you want to do this, or I'll run through it?
You go ahead and do it. I'll just comment on Jan Raymond. Jan Raymond,
All right.
we moved her from F&B to education. She had asked for education, but when she came on to the RTM, she was caucused in, so there was really no room for her on education before. She served on the Board of Education, and she's been very active outside the town in education. So I think it's a good spot for her.
If I might make a comment, even in F&B, Jan holistically would be better serving the town on education. She's very focused on that, and I fully understand her decision in that choice.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, good. That said, District 4, everyone got their first choice with one exception. So we have Megbot, Nick Bronca, and Jan on education. Martha Banks continuing on F&B. Andy Millar, Sandra Savage on Park and Rec. Warner Dermittner is returning to PZ&H, and a new man, Dan Geller. On Public Health and Safety, we have Eric Hannigan, Christine Castles, Jim Cameron, and Brian Rahill. Public Works, Rolf Oben and Paige Christ. And TGS&A, Joe, we're very thankful that he's coming back to work on TGS&A. So we had one person who did not get their first choice, and Dan Guller very graciously moved to PZ&H rather than jamming up education. We realize that some districts do have 4 members on one committee, and we're doing that with Public Health and Safety, but we decided with Dan moving very graciously from his first choice. But he's the only one in the group that did not get their first choice.
Okay. I see 4 on PH&S, but all right, we can look at that later. District 5.
Hi. So Mark and I talked about this weekend. We tried as best we could to give people their first choice. There were a couple of people who ended up with their second choice, who are people who have not been on the RTM that long. However, Mark and I were just chatting, because education is so crowded at this point, we were thinking of moving Laura Gray from education to public health and safety, where we only have one. That was her second choice, public health and safety. So I think that balances out a bit better. So in terms of education, I'm on education. Erin Noonan, who is a mom of 3 girls in the public schools, is new. She wants to be on education. F&B are standing members, Bill Smith and Mark Adeletta. In Parks and Rec, Chris Noonan and Sheila, he is new. That was his first choice. Sheila Sherwood, who has been on. PZNH, Megan Kilcourse, this was her second choice, but it worked for filling out the roster. And Amy Zabarakakis, who's new, that was her first choice. PZNH, of course, Mac, and now Laura. Public Works, Lindsay Kelly and Waddy Platt, that was his second choice. And TGSNA, this was the first choice of these 3 members, David Bain, Harry McLaughlin, and Ken Fiveston, who have been on the RTM for many years.
Good. Okay, District 6.
Okay, so this was interesting this year. Our most requested committee, I thought it would be PZNH because of there's a big development happening within our district, and I thought that would be the most requested. It wasn't. It was Parks and Rec. We had 5 people requesting it. So had to do a few phone calls because we only had one person request F&B. Sorry, Jack, and that would have been Peter. So I had to make a few phone calls, and I convinced Barry to go back onto F&B. And I moved Mary Nevin Gauthier, who was our newest member. She had requested Parks and Rec as well. Her second choice was PZNH, so that's where she is now. Janet, who's been on the RTM for a very long time, but she had to caucus back onto our district last year, had always wanted to be on education, so I moved her back to education. And we are hopefully going to caucus 3 new members in sooner rather than later. 2 of them will go to TGSNA, probably. Well, at least 1 to TGSNA. We need to move 1 to public health and safety. And if Jack, if you want, we'll put the other one onto F&B. So that's what we've got for 6.
Sorry, I'm muted. Look, I want people on F&B that, and Mark, please chime in this, and Peter as well. You know, I was looking over the reports. We met 15 times.
Don't pack my lunch tomorrow. I'm gonna make it, okay? Okay.
And so I want somebody who wants to be there, you know, because it is a lot of work. And we have like, all of a sudden, like real special meetings. We'll talk about this later, but we're probably going to do our organization meeting this week. So on the 22nd, we can have a working session because there's 3 resolutions coming before us already. So, you know, if somebody wants to work, they're more than welcome to come on board. But I leave that up to you guys.
Yeah, no, you know what? I absolutely agree with you, Jack. So when I looked at the people who signed up for Parks and Rec, I looked at what their second choices were. So for Barry, F&B was his second choice.
Yeah, I know
and for
that.
Bill Van Loan, it was his second choice. So Bill was my first phone call. And he was like, it's kind of funny. He was like, I put it second thinking everybody would want it and you would never give it to me. He goes, because it's a lot of work and I can't commit to that. And I'm like, thank you for being very honest. I don't want to put you on a committee that's a lot of work where you don't think you could put the work in. So, so thankfully Barry was like, okay.
Yeah, no, Barry's a great member.
I
And
think Barry is like very much interested in whatever's going on at Pear Tree Point, and that's why he had put Parks and Rec first. So he will watch that from afar and keep an eye
yeah,
on it.
but he also brings us, people may not know or remember, but Barry also served on the Board of Ed for a while. So he's a very good resource, and he's quiet, but he truly understands a lot of things. And, like E.F. Hutton, when Barry says something, it's worth listening to.
Can we scroll this down a little just so we get a little better picture of the whole?
Oh my gosh, no.
You want it up or down?
Well,
Yeah.
Are you looking for totals?
both. Is there a way to just so we can get a picture of the whole thing?
Can you get all 6 districts on there, Mike?
No.
Yeah.
Lois, you designed it. Can we get all 6 districts on there?
If you shrink it,
I
you should
only
be
get
able
5.
to-
I just want to say, if we put all 6 districts, I'm using this to read it.
Well, the only
Try view, Mike, try view. And then,
Let me eliminate these. Let me delete these 3 rows, and that will help.
If you go to full screen under view, it'll help too.
Okay, now what was the full screen under view?
Just scroll down to full screen at the bottom.
all the way down, right there. Now
Didn't
just
do
scroll
much.
a little bit. You have it. There you go.
okay, well,
got it.
the only thing that seems to really
Thanks,
stick
Michael.
out is the 4 players under which one? I need to be able to see the top. So
It's District 1 Education, Seth.
Yeah.
And
That's
public
the-
health and safety has 4 in District 4.
Yeah, Ed has it, and we've got 4 over here. Is there any? That's the only balance I see. Is there any way to take any of that and slide it forward? It sounded like maybe F&B, Jack.
I keep muting myself. No. Again, while I trust the district's assignments, it has to be somebody who wants to be on F&B.
Yeah.
And so, Patty did say, what I mean is that if somebody wants to be, let's say, on Park and Rec or on Public Health and Safety, Public Works, they tend to be, or education for that matter, they tend to be more engaged in that committee. Hence, their attendance are up and their participation is up. And, so
Right.
I think that we do have certain groups like education. Last year, we had 17 in PHS and F&B. So when we met jokingly, we represented 1/3 of the RTM. This year, you have, public health and safety and education are hot buttons, and that's fine. There's a lot of work to do in public health and safety.
Is there, Lois?
There hasn't been, but I know some of the issues that are coming up that we've been talking about will have more work this year. Can we do it with, we can do it with 15, can we do it with 12? Probably. It's not the same because we don't have as many meetings. But I'm interested in, and District 1, Patty and I had a long talk about it, but education is something that's really of strong interest to people. And the fact that Cassie has been waiting 4 years to get on it, is strong for me, as well as the fact that we don't usually take somebody off unless they want to go off a committee. So that's why I agreed. Patty and I had a long discussion about District 1 and education. And when we were done, we really felt that, our committee could support the other areas effectively, and that Cassie deserved a shot at education. So that's why we did it. It was with reluctance, but we really thought it was important.
So
I would
are
say
you
also
feeling-
there's 9 people that are going to be coming on to the RTM. So maybe each district tries to, or multiple districts at least, try to really keep that in mind when they're canvassing to get people for their caucus, that perhaps we really try and get some strong, people for F&B for Jack, or people who have an interest in the time commitment. I know that doesn't help you
Can I
immediately,
say
Jack,
that
but
where you are now, you feel comfortable enough with the balance that we have to go with this, and then watch it, look at it hard when we start adding people? You feel comfortable now with the, we have 2 that are a little high, but are you basically comfortable with the balance that we have to go with this?
Can I just say something? And while I appreciate the concern that F&B has gone from 17 to 12, 2 people left. One person forgot to do their paperwork, and one person unfortunately passed away. With the 12 we have, it's a good team. We'll get our work done.
Yeah.
So I don't need just numbers to have numbers, because that, it's a very strong team that is on F&B, as it is.
Okay,
So, don't worry about stacking the deck here.
okay.
Seth, I just wanted to point out to Mike Wheeler that Ken Fiveson is missing from TGS&A and under District 5.
Was there a minute?
Okay. Let's add that in.
I remember seeing it on there.
I did too, but now it's not there when I'm looking.
I think when Mike deleted those rows so that we could see the full screen, it might have come out by mistake.
Oh, okay.
So he's in District 5?
5, under Harry McLaughlin, right.
Yeah, that's when I eliminated the row. Thank you for saying it.
is there anybody else missing? We should each just check.
I can hear Frank cheering now as we sit here.
I mean, I would suggest that for District 6, when you get your new member, that it's not essential that you put a new member on public health and safety. It's a lot of people already. And if the people are strong enough for some of these committees that need some more people, consider that, even though it's not particularly balanced for your district. Just think about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, for our district, I think the new one will definitely go to TGS and because we have absolutely nobody there. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, and then I'd have to put somebody on Public Works. So it's the 3rd person where, we would see.
Or put the second person, Teresa, the second person's under public health and safety. And was I saying you could go with
Oh,
one?
I'm sorry. I have to scroll. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
What I'm suggesting is that it's not necessary from a standpoint of support to have 2 people on public health and safety for that district. Might be, if some of the people, depending on their background, would be more effective somewhere else, consider it, because there are a lot of people on public health and safety.
Okay, yeah.
For now, are you guys feeling comfortable with what we have?
I'm okay with it, Seth.
Okay, then could I have a motion to
I'll
appoint?
make I'll make the motion to put the slate forward as presented.
Okay.
I'll second Mark's motion.
And Mike Castello is a second. Ready to vote? Oh, excuse me, Frank.
Frank,
You
you're
ready
on
to
mute.
vote? Would you have a question?
Frank
Okay.
is muted.
Yeah, you'd have to unmute, Frank. There, hi. There, you unmuted. Perfect.
I'm seconding.
Oh, okay. All right. Looks like we're ready to vote. Are there any no votes? I don't see any abstentions? Okay, the motion passes unanimously, and we've assigned the committees to the members to the RTM committees. Next item is setting the calendar for 21-22. And I did a draft on that just to give you something to work off of. I think it fulfills everything you have this tricky one in September, but we're able to adjust it back to the 19th of September and avoid the holidays. But I think, does anybody see anything out of line on this?
I would like to make a suggestion.
Yes. Lois.
That we add a rules meeting for December 13th, very short, but to assign the committees for any new members that have been approved to the RTM by the districts, so that we can get people assigned to committees, and when they start the year, they're full-blown members of their committee and just go with it.
I second that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll write
It'll be a
that
short
down.
meeting because the district chairs will each rules district will just figure out who it is. But I think it would, I've gotten feedback from people who've told me that they really think it should happen. So I thought I would.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that one.
Okay. All right. So we'll add December 13 to the calendar for the Rules Committee.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Any other comments?
Are you going to talk about organizational meetings so we can balance when the meetings are and with the licenses and so we can figure out if we have the right number of licenses and people to cover their organizational meetings, which are all going to hit, I assume, in the next 24 hours that you're going to want to set them up.
Yes. They would, let's see, would they contact Kate?
They can tell me now when they want to have the meetings, and so we can hear. We've got everybody but education, I think, and public works here on when they're going to have an organizational meeting, or have to have an organizational meeting because they have to vote on something before the state of the town meeting.
Well, the first thing they can do immediately now that we've assigned the committees is have the committees caucus to elect their chairs, and they can do that immediately. They don't have to wait till next week. And then after they have done selecting their chairs and vice chairs and clerks, they can then set a special meeting to meet on the items on the agenda. And they can do that with 24 hours notice.
Mike, if you're interested, if at all possible, I'll ask Mark and Peter, and I saw Jenny's here. Does Wednesday work for a quick caucus meeting for you guys? Mark? Okay, so if we could have a caucus meeting.
November 17th at 7:30.
I don't work, so I'm gonna go to the people that work and make sure that 7:30 works for them. Does 7:30 work for you, Peter and Mark?
That's the day after tomorrow, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, I'm in.
Yes.
That's fine.
No,
Yes, I'm in. That works.
it's in today, Monday. No, you want the meeting on Wednesday. You said the 17th?
Yep. Works for Jenny as well.
Guys, could we focus on the calendar?
Okay, sorry.
Did you say November 17th or November 16th?
17th, 16th is Board of Finance meeting.
All right, so it's
I
Wednesday.
realize it's a good opportunity here to get some work done. I have an open mind, but
I'm responding to Mike's question. All right, I'm
I-
quiet.
I also see this completely degenerating.
Yes, can I ask a
so-
question? Can I ask a question?
So we are adding December 13 as a rules meeting. Are there any other changes to the calendar?
Someone
Are
had a
you ready
question.
to vote the calendar?
Seth,
All right,
someone
can I
just
have
said
a
that.
motion in favor,
All right,
please?
hold on.
Seth, someone just
I'll
said
make a
they had a
motion.
question.
Mark, can I have a second? Ann, thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All right, we're ready to
Patty had a
vote.
question.
Are there any no votes?
Seth, Patty has a question.
Patty has a question.
Go ahead.
There you are. Sorry, Patty.
No, it's okay. We can set the calendar. My only question when Jack was talking about trying to, do a caucus was, did we need to post that? Did that need to have a 7-day or 10-day post to do a caucus?
No. I went back over Appendix B, and you can, essentially, those committee meetings are caucuses. And the way they're defined, the way they're not defined as meeting, they're defined as caucuses, really, because they leave the whole thing open, and then they give you 2 weeks to have your caucus. Well, you can caucus tonight if you want, and get your officers elected. And once you have your officers elected, then you're good to go to schedule meetings. And the shortest meeting is 24 hours for a special meeting.
All right, just checking. Thank you.
All righty. Now, let's see.
Yeah.
So I think we have
We had a
a
motion,
second.
we had a motion, we had a second. Who was the second on that
Do
motion?
we have any, yes, Ann?
I was
Get
just-
your-
I was just telling Mark I was the second.
Thank you, Ann.
Oh, okay, Ann, thank you. We're ready to vote. Are there any no votes, please? I see none. Are there any abstentions? I see none. The vote is unanimous to approve the calendar for the representative town meeting and the Rules Committee for the coming year. All right. Next item is we don't like to do business in the state of the town, but we've got some bookkeeping stuff that we've just got to get taken care of. And so there are 3 items. One which I added to the agenda with your permission tonight, and that's approval of the $82,741 to replenish the Board of Finance capital reserve to reflect the actual insurance payment received on the Board of Ed vehicles. That seems like one committee to me, F&B. Has anybody got any other suggestions? Okay, so we'll do that one. I was going to put all 3 of these on one motion to put on the agenda, if that's okay with you. So the next one would be funding of $110,000 to hire a consultant to help with FEMA grant applications. That's public health and safety and F&B. Are there any other suggestions?
Just public
Yes,
health
sir.
and safety is primary. F&B is secondary.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. What I meant, good.
And
And
I
then
think
finally, yes,
Public health and safety is primary for the purpose of public health and safety is involved with the emergency management. And
Right.
this falls in those lines, which is what I think you were thinking of.
right. And then it's FEMA, so it really falls under PH&S. In this particular, because it's a grant. The next one also involves FEMA, but it's just correcting to the correct amount, the total appropriation. So we have a $501,000 increase to the appropriation for the FEMA grant related to Crimmins Road, bringing the total appropriation to $669,100. That's all money and accounting. So I think that F&B primary would be enough. I don't think we need any others. Anybody
I
have
did
any-
want to, since Amy is on this call, I did want to give Amy an opportunity, if she so desires, to also report on that and hear her feelings on it.
Amy, you want in?
I was just observing just to be in front of a potential assignment to my committee, whether I was going to be the chair or not. I just, for continuity, that's the only reason why am observing right now. It's really up to you guys what you see is fit. If you really just think it's an accounting issue and it's not an additional anything that involves zoning or, I can totally defer to just F&B, but it's really up to you guys what you want to decide.
It is, from my conversations with Kate and with Jim Palin, this isn't accounting. It's just FEMA changed how we pay, and we pay now, they pay later.
Yeah.
So F&B can handle that.
Okay, and that from what I have seen so far, it just seems to be a timing issue. But to the extent that the scope has grown, then I'd be happy to weigh back in.
All right. So can I have a motion, please, to put these 3 items on the agenda for the state of the town? Peter, we'll get you in. Okay, and second? Okay, Teresa. Great. Further comments?
Seth,
Yes,
can you just restate the assignments for all 3 items, just so I can make sure I have them right?
and I can send you typed.
Yep, I just want to get them in the minutes.
Yeah, sure. And the first one is approving $82,741 to replenish the Board of Finance capital reserve to reflect actual insurance payment received. We got the insurance payment and it came in $500 higher than we thought originally. The second one is funding of $110,000 to hire the consultant for the FEMA grant applications. And the third one is an increase in the appropriation for the FEMA grant related to Crimmins Road. And it brings the total of the appropriation to $669,100.
Got it, Seth. And can you just repeat the assignments, the proposed assignments?
Oh, excuse me, yeah. There's just one on the 82,000. Finance and budget is primary.
Thank you.
For the 110,000, it's public health and safety primary, F&B secondary.
Thank you.
And for the third one, it's for the 501,000 increase, it's just finance and budget primary, no others.
Thank you.
All right. Can I have a motion to put those 3 items on the agenda with the committee assignments?
We've got them.
Yes, Ann?
I think we had them already. Hang
We
on.
already have that motion.
Well,
Yeah, we have Peter and Teresa made the motions already. That's what
Okay.
I thought.
all right, good. So we have motions on the table, ready to vote. Are there any no votes? I see none. Any abstentions? I see none. Motion carries unanimously. Next item is setting the agenda for the State of the Town meeting on December 6th. And I did a kind of a rough draft on that because we have the call to order, acceptance of the agenda, approval of the minutes for November 8th, the announcements, and then funding the 110, the 501,825, the 669,100, and then approving the capital fund reserve reimbursement for 82,741. Now, my question to you is, would you rather have the state of the town reports ahead of those, or leave them, leave the funding and these business items first, and then do the state of the town reports?
Will we have people like Ed Gentile and town workers be there as a result of those reports? And if so, perhaps we have that first so they can leave afterwards?
Well, I'm very helpful, and thank you, Patty, for bringing that aspect of it in. We have an item on our agenda tonight to talk about, and perhaps maybe even agree to have the meeting face to face. And yes,
I just meant get off the screen or leave the room. I wasn't opining on how that vote's.
you weren't taking us down that highway. All right, fine.
It was just their timing.
So yes, though it's conceivable, yeah, that those folks would be there. It's just, it's just the chairs, planning and zoning, board of ed, chair of the board of finance, and first selectman. At this point, it's no one else.
Okay.
It hasn't generally been anybody else.
So Seth, I think we do our business first.
Yes.
And because on one of these issues, and you and I had this conversation earlier, I've already requested that Jim Palin, speak on one of them, because I think it's important that he does. And so I would, and it also gives an opportunity if Steve Alvani or Monica want to add anything to the two, not the accounting ones, but the one in the middle, the FEMA consultant, that we have them there. And so, and I don't think the two accounting should take much time. So I would prefer we do our business first and then we go for the state of the town.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Jack, because we may have part of the administration, the department heads coming to talk about some of these issues also for backup. So then that speaks to Patty's question.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Agree.
All righty. So we'll do the state of the town reports after the business. Terrific. Good. So with that in mind, can I have a motion to approve the agenda for the December 6th meeting, the state of the town meeting?
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Frank? There's you, Frank.
I see Ann again. I don't know what it is, Ann, or
Frank,
just a little quicker, Patty.
Patty seconded, Mark.
Doesn't matter. And doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you.
It's just Ann's panel is right in front of my eyes, so I keep seeing her. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, we seem ready to vote. Are there any no votes on this? I see none. Are there any abstentions? I see none. Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, everybody. I think that's great. Other business. Well, I'll put it in a little different order because I thought that the state of the town would be a great time for us to bring the RTM and the leadership in the town together as we used to do, and meet at the auditorium. And my thoughts were this. I don't want anybody taken ill because we had a face-to-face meeting to run the state of the town. But 97% of the town is vaccinated. And it seems to me that we could create an environment there that people could feel comfortable in and still meet in our traditional way. The smaller boards, and admittedly they are smaller, the Board of Ed, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, they're meeting face to face with masks. And so it seemed to me that there was an opportunity for us to do that as well. I thought about people who might have a reluctance because of different issues. Maybe they've got pre-existing conditions, maybe, and they don't want to expose themselves. But it seems to me that we have enough space to be able to create our normal meeting on the main floor. We're not subject to some of the rigid requirements that were present before. I mean, it's essentially everybody has to wear a mask, and that's about it to have a meeting. But the other thing is that we've got the balcony, so that if there were some people who wanted to be at the meeting face to face, but felt uncomfortable because of whatever reasons they had, there's enough space in the balcony to be able perhaps to spread them out so that they could feel comfortable. We're talking about maximum 5 meetings pretty much a year. It's not like we're in a confined space meeting multiple times. So I wanted to put this before you. It's something that I would just love to see all the friendly faces. See, I get to see everybody because I'm facing everybody. And so I wanted to bring this out to you, and I'll open it up for comment. Yes, Teresa.
I'm comfortable with it so long as we make you're not required to wear a mask in town hall anymore if you're vaccinated. I am vaccinated, but I would feel far more comfortable if we do this, that we make it mandatory to wear a mask in the room.
Okay, I see Adele.
Hey, Seth, I really am not a fan of this. I think I probably spoke the last time you brought this up. I would love to see everybody too, but I am not comfortable I don't think you're going to ask people for their vaccination cards as they walk in the front door and require them to wear a mask. I recently went to a basketball game, and I thought to myself, well, the RTM, I'm getting feedback. I hope you can hear me okay. The RTM is kind of like this, right? Well, before I could walk in there, I had to show my vaccination card. I had to have a mask on, and I had to keep it on. And I don't think that we have those policies in place. And I'm a little nervous. We have some vulnerable people. We have little people in town that aren't vaccinated, and we have numbers spiking at some of the elementary schools right now. We're walking into the holidays. It makes no sense to me that we should do this now. We've got terrific technology, Seth. We're blessed with people that are taking great care of us with technology, and we can do so much with the technology. I don't want to put anybody at risk, and I know that there are folks out there, even though the vaccination numbers are high in Darien, everybody is not vaccinated.
Well, I don't think, to be honest with you, everybody ever would be. It's not just statistically not going to happen. But anyway, yeah, Lois, then Michael.
No, Lloyd, you're going to handle the voting?
No,
What?
I just wanted to comment. I wanted to comment.
Oh, traditional. We do it the traditional way by districts.
How would we vote for the people in the balcony?
I think the districts could identify who's up there from their districts and send somebody up to get their vote.
Okay. I would like to comment that I am not in favor of this, that I think it's too soon. I think we're walking into the holidays. If we get through the holidays well, I think we could consider it for January, but I don't think it's needed now. And I also don't think that we need to sit in a room with a lot of other people for an hour and a half while we listen to speeches. That can be very easily listened to at home. So I would prefer that we consider it at another meeting.
Seth, Lois just made my 2
Yes,
points.
Michael? Mike?
Go
I
ahead,
think
Michael.
Mike was ahead of me. Mike was ahead of me. Go ahead, Mike.
Also, we're not set up for hybrid, so anyone who was coming in from GoToMeeting would not be able to vote on any of the motions. You would have to be in
No,
the.
no, it's not, I'm not, my proposal is not for hybrid. Hybrid would not work.
No, I'm just saying that
In that
those
environment.
who didn't
I
feel
agree with
comfortable going to the meeting would not be able, there would not be a hybrid way to vote. So you have to be in the arena to vote.
Correct.
And so
Yes,
you'd
I
have to
just
get,
would echo.
Just like,
get
you
a
know,
quorum out
that's
of that.
always been the way.
Yeah, I just want to echo Lois captured my 2 points really spot on, which was I would feel better. First of all, I'm personally happy to go, so it's not a personal thing. But I think it'd be better positioned to do it after January 1, where a lot more companies have sort of picked January as when they're asking people to come back to work. Number one, and number two, Lois's other point was exactly where my head was, which was this is a meeting where you're sitting there listening. There's not a giant benefit to doing that in person.
Well, we have 3 agenda items as well, but, right?
They're
Okay.
fairly minor. They're
Yes.
fairly minor, though.
Jack?
Yeah, I'm going to add a couple of things. I agree with Michael. I agree with Lois and Teresa. But we're going into not just COVID season, but we're also going into flu season. And, you know, when you're having these holiday and then possibly exposing people that may affect Christmas and New Year's, I just don't think that's fair. Number two, something that Adele said is right now there's not the policy to wear a mask. And even if we set the policy that you have to wear a mask, there are people of various persuasions, whether or not they're in our RTM or not, I do not know. But if they refuse to wear a mask, even if we in rules say it's mandatory, who's going to enforce that? Are you going to tell somebody that they have to leave, Seth? Because I bet you're not going to. Do we need to have a police officer there to escort them out? I mean, until we have a policy that we have, I think the statistics of 87% of Darien is a bunch of hooey. I'd be a lot more comfortable if you're willing to ask everyone to show who's vaccinated, but I guarantee there's people within our RTM that are not vaccinated for whatever reason, their choice. But if they're not vaccinated and they don't want to wear a mask, and somebody does get sick and affect somebody, I don't want to be responsible for that. That goes beyond my moral values.
Okay. Yes, Joe?
Yeah, I favor that we get back on track and meet face to face. The RTM is losing its heart. You know, we have these meetings that are virtual, but we don't know who's watching them. You know, they sign in and they could go off, and not everybody who signs in votes at our meetings. I think it's time that we get back and be face to face. I think there's things that we can do to help people who are not comfortable being downstairs with the crowd, like you said. But I just think it's time.
Okay, Joe, thank you.
Seth,
Others?
one other
Yeah,
point. I'm sorry.
Peter?
Yeah, I believe that the time actually, with respect to time, is not right because we're going to have to deal with enforcement issues that could cause conflict that we're maybe we don't want to tackle that right now. And I think ultimately we want to get back in person, and I think seeing how the holidays shake out and taking another look at this in January is good. But I also think in long run, this is not really pertinent to the immediate question, but I think we needed to explore how we would want to have a hybrid meeting. And I bring some, I do a lot of business on video teleconference and hybrid situations because I work in a large organization all over the country and the world. And so this is all, and so many people have been disrupted by use of video teleconference, and it's pretty much second nature to me. So I would like to see where the opportunity down the road where we could have a hybrid format where we can have voting. To me, the voting problem is problematic. If we're going to have an in-person meeting, then all voting has to be in person. So you're basically compelling everybody to be there, or otherwise they have to give up their vote. And I think that's not something we want to tackle right now. That's a real problem even from a due process point of view.
Well, just as a point of fact, the reason that we're able to do this at all remotely is because the state of Connecticut legislature passed a law back in June, I guess it was, that expires April 30. So we are not going to be able to do this indefinitely. And so I hear what you're saying, and what I will do is put this on the agenda for January, and we can come and start to talk about how do we set conditions for doing it. I'm looking at, I mean, all I got to do is turn on the television on Saturday and see anywhere from 45,000 to 100,000 people sitting shoulder to shoulder with no masks, and maybe call them insane, but it's the real world, and we haven't seen any particular.
Seth, if I may follow up,
So
years that we haven't had a chance to come up to an agreed upon policy, and that, for example, I mean, the law is fairly straightforward. Public health mandates by a state, local, or federal government are constitutional. I mean, we can come up with these rules and enforce them. We have the authority to do that as a general matter. I mean, specifics are something different, but we haven't had a chance to really tackle that. And I think, frankly, we should all go back to our districts and sort of take a temperature of how people feel.
Mm-hmm.
Are they ready to handle saying you have to show your darn vaccination card to walk in? Because while I think there is more homogeneity in this town regarding public health versus other issues, it may not be unanimous, and we may actually be precipitating some conflict that maybe we want to avoid, or at least try to find a way around down the road.
Seth, I want to add something.
Yeah, Michael Castle.
Okay.
Just quickly, I would also be concerned, again, I'm eager to get back. I'm very eager. I sympathize with Joe Michelli's comment 100%. I would be concerned about December for another reason, which is because there's so many people on the fence, we may not get a quorum if people are unwilling to come.
Okay, good.
Excellent point.
I'm getting a sense
Seth,
here,
if I might.
Excuse me, Jack.
Yeah, I appreciate that there are other places and locations where I watch people in the stands, some masked, some not. And I don't mean a dispersion on any state, but I don't live in Idaho. I don't live in some of these states that have vaccine rates that are below 30%. And so when I'm watching a Mississippi State game, that to me doesn't have any value here. And the reason, by the way, why the state legislature said that the mandate that you can do virtual through the end of April is that the state wanted communities to get together in person to vote on the budget, which is in May. That's why the May one is there. So while I do appreciate that, it helps and everything, and I can just say from F&B, it's very convenient to do virtual meetings. We've had higher attendance that way because people do travel, they are at work and other things like that, and they've been able to call in or Zoom in and participate in a lot of meetings, which otherwise they would not have. So I appreciate you tabling this to January. We'll have better information at that time. I think more of our younger people will be vaccinated by then. Good reminder that the town is doing vaccines for people over 55. I'm going tomorrow, and they're opening up clinics for the 5-year-olds and above as well. So that's something that's worthwhile to mention at our meeting in your announcements.
Okay, so I got a good sense here. I'll put it on January. We'll pick it up again. Maybe we can take it to another step, get some ideas, have everybody a chance to think about it. We'll see what happens. And, we'll take it from there.
Seth, I've got a question. Does the decision to keep virtual for another 2 months, does that limit the chairman of committees yet to be elected from having a discussion with their committee and perhaps meeting in person?
No.
Fine. Put it more positively. Committee chairmen are free to make decisions within their own committees as to what the venue would be.
Right.
Okay, that's great. Good.
And we could decide ourselves that we want to meet together, rather than doing it virtually. So I'll offer that to you as well. It's a smaller group, and smaller groups are meeting face to face throughout the town, the keyboards, everybody. All right.
Seth, I think Adele's trying to ask a question.
Oh, yes, Adele. Get your
Unmute,
mic.
Adele.
I was muted. Here I am. I just to that point, when and if committees would be, just keep in mind that we don't have that many rooms in town hall that are that large. And I, for one, don't think I would want to be in 211 or those small meeting rooms that we often use for committees. I have a feeling that folks aren't going to be so comfortable with that as long as COVID is around. So just to keep in mind, I think there aren't very many larger spaces in town hall for committees to meet. Thanks.
Well, then that obviously will be a consideration for that committee.
Seth, along those lines,
Yes,
if we're gonna do the rules meeting in person, I would suggest it happen in the auditorium.
Well, I will poll all of you before we do that. I want to be sensitive, but it seems to me that in a place like the auditorium, we could spread out enough, not wind up infecting each other with whatever. Good. Anything else on that? Yeah, Lois?
I have another new business item. Nothing on that.
All right, well, it was brought to my attention that some of the standing committee descriptions that are handed out, and also maybe even the way they're written now in Appendix B, need to be reviewed. So I was going to have ask Frank. I called Frank earlier before I pounced on him, and suggested that TGS&A coordinate and talk with the committees and look at rewriting the committee description, see if they should tie number 1 to Appendix B, and if Appendix B needs to be revised, then we have to bring that forward and do that. And there's an opportunity there to work with each of the committee chairs to get their input on rewriting each one of these. Oh, does that sound doable, Frank?
Yes, if the Rules Committee right now gives a charter to TGSNA, no matter who the leadership of that will be, but if they give the charter to TGSNA to correspond with the new committee chairmen, forwarding them the text of Appendix B to see what their initial thoughts are and changing it. Seth, when this suggestion came up, and looking at those brief descriptions, ironically, TGSNA gets a whole big paragraph, but most of them are very thin. Is it your hunch that these paragraphs are going to be expanded, or are you looking at some tricky phrasing in there that is causing the problem? Can you give us a little background on what brings this to the table right now?
I think it's both. I think looking at what the individual wording says that these committees do, and the other thing is it may be that they are doing other things since those descriptions were written somewhere close to the birth of Christ. That we could that maybe now might be a good time to get them right, so that number one, the two are in sync. In other words, what we're handing out to people to make their requests on actually describes what they're going to be doing. And the second is that Appendix B and the descriptions match. You know. Do you have any other thoughts, Jack?
The process would start with the observations of the new committee chairman. But,
right.
But I do believe that the results of that should come back to this body because the committee chairman, either through one reason or another, may not come up with the changes that are appropriate. So it really should be emphasized that it's rules that's making the change. TGSNA is facilitating the back and forth and getting the documents together. But it really should be I believe that it should be a rules project that TGSA can facilitate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Are there any others?
Okay. I'm going to be a little bit more blunt than Seth is being kind. The descriptions for the committees are incorrect. None of the committees have comments on people's personnel. F&B does not have a say on assessments. These, and maybe it was written a little bit after the birth of Christ, but not too much after. But I actually think there's a different starting point. And it's something that Mark Thorne and I had discussed possibly doing a long time ago in F&B before he went to the Board of Selectmen. And that is, all of the committees actually should be following various boards, commissions, advisory groups, departments, and that should be laid out, because I don't even know that everybody on rules, I mean, I don't. Occasionally I'll see somebody going and saying, oh, I'm on this committee or I'm on this advisory board. And that's where our work is coming from. So I think it's almost going back to the beginning and going to the website and saying, here's all the commissions. Who follows that? It's not that we oversee them, but who follows that? I know in F&B, we're the liaison from the Board of Finance to the RTM, as it says in the charter, which is why I was saying we introduce the bonding and the committees give the detail on what's being bonded. But the sustainability group, well, that's in Public Works. And some of the other ones, the tax, requests and that. Who's responsible for what departments in a budget? Who's primary? So I would say that, like, you have, as an example, public health and safety has the
Jack,
police
Jack,
commission.
let's not write this tonight. Jack, let's
So
not
I'm
write
just
it
saying,
tonight.
I think that's the starting point, because if you're just going to committees, you're not going to accomplish anything.
Well, I don't, there's nothing that we've discussed that precludes that. But I think TGSNA is the right place to do that. And they certainly would be dialoguing with you and other committee chairs to put the thing together.
But we're deciding what their charter is. And if the charter is just to change the descriptions of the committees, we should have that ready for us in January, because that takes about one weekend. If we're going to track who is following what boards, commissions, and other things, and have that laid out, which also would help us in rules, because where it's coming from helps us decide who should be assigned primary and secondary. That takes a little bit more time. And so what is the charge we're giving them? If it's just the committees, then we should see it back in January.
Well,
Takes 2 minutes.
I agree with Jack that the revisions need to be extensive. But what I was recommending is really round one of a 10-round discussion. So to get the committees familiar with what we're doing, because right now, so you say Appendix B to people and they just don't know where to find it. So what I would like to do is to get the topic on the table and let them know what they're in for. And I think Jack, you are correct that they need to be the descriptions need to be beefed up and made more clear. But the first step is to see where they're wrong, and then move ahead as you described. I don't have any problem with it. But I do want to get it started with the new committee chairman accepting responsibility for working this over, rather than just flipping it back to rules and flipping it back to TGSNA to rewrite their charter for them. It's a participatory thing, which may be which may take some time to do.
Good. Okay. I haven't heard anything that precludes what Jack had to say. And I think TGSNA is the right group here to coordinate this with the committees. And the dialogue, I can see will be there. I will go ahead and ask TGSNA to take that on, and we'll continue to follow the dialogue as it develops. Now,
I'll pass that on to the next chairman.
well, it's no fair ducking.
Too funny.
When you see the fastball coming at your head. At any rate, that's the way we'll go forward with everybody's approval here. Next is I put this down as well. The question of starting the RTM meeting earlier, like at 7:30. It occurred to me that we start them at 8. That goes back a ways. I can remember when we did it. We had I think people getting off the train at 8, it just close to 8 o'clock at night, and that was a better time for people who are commuting on a regular basis to make the meetings. And but at this point in time, I can't see why we shouldn't look at having the meetings at 7:30 and getting done a little bit earlier in the evening. Thoughts?
Yes.
I'd support
I
that.
would say we should ask our RTM body on that, because as much as I thought that budget meeting went extremely long last May, there are a lot of people that are going back and starting to commute. So that means they'd have to be leaving on a 6 you know, prior to 6:30 train, if they're coming in from the city to make a 7:30. So I just think that that's something we should consider to put out to the larger RTM body before we were to ever make that decision. Just my take.
I agree with Patty's
yeah,
comments.
Mark?
Yeah, I agree with Patty's comments. For years, I relied on the 8 o'clock start when I was commuting. And I welcome input from the people who are asking to attend those 8 o'clock or 7:30 starts.
So you like the idea of 7:30 or no?
I like the idea of maybe polling or getting a sense of what the body wants.
Okay,
Because I know I
Lois?
appreciated the late start for many years.
got it.
I know Public Health and Safety frequently meets right before the RTM meeting. We meet at 7. And so that's a consideration. What I don't know if any other committees meet right before the RTM meeting. So that if you start at 7:30, I'd be surprised that the meetings would start, the Public Health and Safety would start at 6:30, but that's just to be discussed and the committee can talk about it if that's an issue.
All right. Any other thoughts?
Is it possible to make it a poll that we do at our next RTM meeting where Kate puts the poll up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Why don't we do that?
If you think that's a good approach, no problem at all. I can, we can do a poll.
Maybe the January meeting?
What?
Not, maybe the January meeting instead of the state of the town? I don't know.
Yeah, okay. I wasn't thinking in that one particularly.
Because we'll have a better sense of how many people have gone back. There's a large amount of financial companies that are starting to go back in January. So that poll might make more sense.
So do the poll in January? Okay, yeah, Jack?
Yeah, I think we need to define what the poll means. Majority rule may not be the answer here. If we have 20 to 25% of the RTM saying 8 o'clock works better for them, because there are a lot of people like myself, and there's some people that do not work and that. But if 20 to 25% are saying no, 8 o'clock works better for them, this may be a time that minority rules, because we don't want to lose some very good members to the RTM who just happen to work and work in the city in a financial environment. So I think as part of that poll, we have to set the parameters of what it means. Because just because 80% say, oh yeah, let's do 7:30, that might not be good results. Because we might lose 20.
It could just be a survey. It's like a survey monkey, right?
No, this isn't this is just a determination of where people are coming from on that. Ultimately, it falls to the Rules Committee. So
it's a little
bit.
But I think
the results and then we take the results and then make a determination about what if anything we want to do.
You see, and I just have a different approach. I think we have to quantify what would be the determining factors for us first. And then when we get the results back, that adds some boundaries to it, as opposed to just getting the results and then trying to figure it out. We should almost set some criteria that, hey, if we get 20% of the people that are saying, no, it doesn't work, that may be enough to keep it where it is. That's the conversation I'd like to have even before we see the numbers. That's how I do surveys.
Yeah, I think I think you could put in a survey, you could get commentary as well. Is probably a way to do that. I have to look at that, see if you got the results back, but you also had commentary from people as to what they're thinking.
It could also be a little dangerous to put a survey out and using the example Jack gave. If let's say 75% say 7:30 and 25% say 8 o'clock. The challenge is then if we decide that 25 is too many to potentially lose, and therefore we keep it at 8 o'clock, you got 75 people that say, 75 of us wanted it, why didn't they do what we asked? So there's always that risk.
That's true. Still, I think, we made the decision to go to 8 o'clock. Well, it was an earlier time, as I recall, or it was 8:30 and we pulled it back to 8. So the decision has been made. It's some point to change it's not unheard of that time was changed. Yes, Lois?
We did vote in the RTM to change the time, but along with what Michael's saying, I mean, maybe we could put it out to the committees to just have a discussion and let the committee chair report back. And that way it's not this overall sense. It's just like we're trying to get a feel and do, an informational session rather than a numbers kind of thing.
I like that.
Yeah. All right. Let's.
If we wanted to have some fun, put it to the districts, give the districts something to do, and they can pull their chins up.
But the districts don't meet, and our other committees do meet, or almost every committee will meet over the next month or two. In January, most of the, looking at budgets and starting to do those, most of our working committees meet. The districts don't necessarily, and I really don't want to see this as emails back and forth. Either a discussion like this electronically or in person, however the group meets, because I think it's the essence of what people are saying rather than the yes and no calculations.
Right.
Almost every district, except for my district, District 2, is caucusing in the next few weeks for new members.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I think
We can
District
ask
2 is the
across
only
both.
one.
We could ask across both in your district and in committees.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see what we can do to put together a questionnaire that would be helpful, and get it out and see what we're hearing. Certainly we've heard from you guys, and that's great. All right. We have done a lot tonight. We've selected the vice chair and the clerk of the Rules Committee and approved the minutes. Done the Technology Committee, signed new RTM members to committees, set the calendar, added items to the agenda, and had some very quiet, non-controversial discussions on other items. So that's great. So I don't, unless somebody's got something else, Lois.
I see that Krista's on, and we've seen a lot of feedback from a lot of people who were involved, but I would like to thank Krista for initiating the preference to doing the surveys. I think that the process worked really well. Obviously, there's always little things to tweak. And I know I was part of it, but Jack really took the lead in setting up some of the things, and Mike took the lead in setting up the boards. And I think the ability to do this saved enormous amounts of time. So, Krista, thank you.
Yep.
Nice job.
Lois, you're very gracious in thanking everybody else. And I think we should thank Lois as well for help making this thing work. It was a really very nice exercise. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Lois.
And Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, I liked it, okay? I know it was a problem, but I liked it. Thank you.
I just want to say hi, Krista. Nice to see you.
And please, if anyone has any other along the same lines, if there are things that you've been doing, for those of you, many have been on the RTM for decades, please share your thoughts, obviously amongst yourselves as rules, or if you want to run something by me that you're thinking of doing a little bit differently, please know I'm open to any suggestions, and we're trying to make this all work better for you all. So, but thank you very much, Lois. And I think it was a great end product. It was well improved upon, but I'm glad it got started.
And the other things I want to add is when we looked at the numbers of how many people want mailed copies of the warning versus not, about 1/3 wanted mailed copies and 2/3 did not want mailed copies. So thank you, Mark, for suggesting it oh so long ago, even though you forgot that you did that.
I did, yeah. We'll save a little bit of money in trees in the process.
I
I
did,
think the contribution that everybody is making here is really important and it's effective. We've really been able to get a lot done in a very difficult environment. Just to put these things on, there's about 6 different rules and laws and rulings that we have to deal with just to make sure that when we do these things, we're doing them the way we're supposed to. It's that it takes a lot of time to do it. This looks easy, but putting the framework in place that's correct is not easy, and it takes a lot of time. So I just want to thank everybody for pitching in because it does make a huge difference. Good. There not being any other things.
No, there is something, Seth. Seth,
Yes.
if everybody doesn't mind, there is a comment in the chat that I'm going to read just to make sure everybody has seen it. And it's, as a current former chairperson, I'm mindful of the competition to get meeting space in town hall. Will the chairs be notified in advance to switch gears to the in-person modality? So I just wanted to read that. It was something that was put in chat, and I want us all to be aware that it was put there.
All right.
Kristen, do you want to say something else? I thought you started to.
I didn't.
thanks so much, Patty. If you don't mind, Seth, I had just shot you an email when you're discussing TGSNA, whether or not that issue about the warning and 10 days notice for the newspaper. I'm not opining, but that has become a little bit of a challenge if that is something the RTM would still like to see or amend the time window. Not to be decided tonight, but just as another issue that I think Seth and I have come across in the last couple of meetings.
Yeah.
We're running
Well,
into.
we have time. Do we have time on this one, right?
Right, but is this something that TGSNA and the Rules Committee would like to address going forward when appropriate? Right now, we have to get.
Whether we want to change the rule? Yeah, we can add that into the agenda.
I don't want to, I'm not going to prolong the meeting, but Krista, run it by Wayne, because there are various things that we trip over when we try to do some stuff that get messed up with the state and the FOI that we don't understand that well. But I fully support that. But I'd like to ask you to run it by Wayne first.
Sure, happy to.
Yeah, he can turn it. He can turn it into language that we will work with, and I'd be glad to work with it. I think it'll be fun.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Any other?
Yes, Mark. Seth, I got two comments. One, Mike, if you can send me the grid with the committee assignments, I did not replicate it in my minutes. I'll attach it.
Could you put
and I
that
send
up
it to the clerk.
one more time for us to take a picture of? Is it possible?
Sure.
It'll be attached to the minutes.
But if we want it
Okay.
tonight.
Other business. There we are. All right.
I'm taking a picture, but I don't want to take it.
Thank you.
Okay, we set?
And then Seth, if you can attach the calendar we agreed to the minutes when I submit them.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Anything
Mike?
else? I'll accept a motion to adjourn. I see Frank.
I'll make a
Second.
motion.
I see Patty. Any no votes, please? I don't see any. Any abstentions? Unanimous. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Thank you,
Thank
Seth.
you all.